Welcome, everyone, to another special 15th anniversary edition of The Final Cut. Mark, the movie man here. So glad you could join us on our little sliver of the internet, as I'm doing with these special anniversary editions. I am joined by a friend and spoiler room crew member of mine. They picked the movie. We watched it and we will talk about it. These reviews will be mostly spoiler free, so you'll be okay there. But we thank you for joining us. And today we got none other than the BFD, the one and only Mr. Glenn Bittner here. Hello, Glenn. How are you?
What are you doing in my house?
Wow, you've got a big house.
The internet is my home.
The internet. You're what are you now? The lawnmower man? So
Cyberpunks, get off my lawn.
so yes, and today, as with the other episodes like these, they're picking movies from 2006, which was the first year, obviously, when we kicked off the YouTubes. And so today, Mr. Glenn Bittner picked Slither, directed and written by James Gunn. And Glenn, would you like to give the synopsis of Slither?
Sure. Meteorite crashes to Earth, and as all meteorites do, it contains infectious aliens. And as all infectious aliens do, they infected Michael Rooker, who then, just makes things worse. And these things go around infecting people and taking them over, kind of like lots of them are like zombies, except for those that are, I guess, are given the joy of breeding more of these slithery things. And Firefly shows up and takes care of some things, and something about making a porno. And I'm getting off track, I think, of which movie I'm talking about.
I think,
now.
yeah, that's wrong movie.
And and then of course, stuff happens that involves aliens and infecting people,
and lots of gooey things. So
yes, and some fun Easter eggs.
Some fun Easter eggs, yeah, that's for sure. And one of them's kind of spoiled on the cover of the video, which I have here. Which this DVD actually is just packed full of like extras. I couldn't believe how many all kinds of extras they had on this DVD. But
I love the commentary where James Gunn mentions like all the horror movie stuff, like names he has put in there, and says, but I'm not going to tell you all that because that would spoil it for people who want to experience that for themselves. And then the commentary then goes ahead and spoils it all.
Of course he does. Of course he does. In true James Gunn fashion. Now, this was after he did. Was it? It was Dawn of the Dead, right? Was the remake that he did?
It was after Dawn of the Dead, because that's Nathan Fillion wanted to work with him because of Dawn of the Dead.
Right. And apparently Nathan Fillion actually tried to try out for Dawn of the Dead, but they're like, yeah, we kind of want someone who's blonde and female for the role.
Yep.
So yeah, Nathan Fillion's in here, along with a great cast of other fine folk. And do you remember when you watched this, Glenn? What did you think of it?
Oh man, when I first watched this, I remember renting it on DVD. It's probably a couple of years after it came out, because I did not see this in the theaters.
Right.
And the entire reason I didn't pick it out. A friend recommended it, and we were at the video store, and he's like, "Oh, this is the dude who made that Dawn of the Dead movie," and I'm like, all right, cool, we'll check it out. I didn't really know that. This is, I'm trying to think. This is pre-Firefly, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe.
I really knew. I mean, I knew of Nathan Fillion's existence.
No, actually, it was just after Firefly.
Was it just after?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm trying to remember.
He had disappeared for a little while. It was kind of Nathan Fillion. And all of a sudden, he was in this movie.
That might have been the other reason why I was attracted to it, is because of Nathan Fillion. I couldn't remember if this was before or after. God, I'm old. I'm old, and everything I like is old. And I don't realize how old things are anymore.
Yeah, I mean, because he was in a few things before here, but as far as like as I was aware too, after Serenity, I mean, he did some voice acting for a little bit, but then he jumped into Slither because Serenity was just the year before this. But he had done a couple other things, but pretty much kind of dropped off the very popular radar. And then
Yeah, until I mean, I know he did.
he was in Mismatch.
Yeah, but the series he was on before Castle.
Oh, yeah.
Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was like 10 years after this, or eight or 10 years after that. It was like 2015 or something.
Right.
Gravity Falls, because Castle was, or no, Castle started in. I just everything's a mess because my brain has too much stuff in it.
Oh no, it's okay. I've got the IMDb up here, so
oh yeah, no, Castle was like 2010. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was steady work. It's just that the stuff that was really where he's up in the forefront, he wasn't, because he had done actually quite a bit of voice acting, which is interesting.
Yeah.
For him. And yeah, I was happy to see him back. He was the draw for me when I found out that this was, I didn't back then, in all honesty, I didn't even kind of recognize the name of James Gunn being the guy who did the Dawn of the Dead remake. I really enjoyed that. That was like one of the only really good remakes to come out, especially at that time. And I was like, okay, but I didn't pay too much attention. That was the same director. And then it was like, holy crap, this movie's a lot of fun. Slither is.
I'm calling bull crap. Firefly was not 19 years ago. That's a lie.
that is a lie. Well, even worse, Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
That's why we picked this out.
Yes.
You just watched Dr. Horrible, and my friends, he mentioned the James Gunn, the guy who did Dawn of the Dead, this, and he goes, oh, and the guy from Dr. Horrible's in this. And I'm like, Nathan Fillion? He's like, who? I'm like, the guy from. So
yeah,
a friend who to this day has not seen Firefly.
Really? Wow.
Does not like sci-fi.
Huh.
Unless it's horror sci-fi.
Right.
Because Alien is one of his favorite movies of all time. But
this is definitely horror sci-fi, and if you're a horror fan of all at all, especially of classic horror and even 80s horror, you will pick up a lot of the references he puts in here. I mean, from of course the Blob to Nightmare on Elm Street to
R.J. McCready's Funeral Home.
Mm-hmm. It's
The Thing, Tremors, The Stand. There's references to so much stuff in here. So,
but at the same time, Glenn, wouldn't you agree? This is one of those. It's not a parody film, it's an homage film, but yet it manages to keep its own identity versus some homage films, which are just like, look at us, we're an homage film.
Yeah. And I like the way that Gunn described it. Is he said, we're making a funny movie, but we're not making a comedy.
Right.
There's some dark stuff in here.
Oh yeah.
And then reading about scenes that he wanted to do originally, but was talked out of by the producers, and then realizing, like looking back and going, yeah, it was a good thing I didn't do, like kill a bunch of kids on screen, because audiences, especially in Europe, don't like that.
No, they do not. In fact, the first kid I think I saw killed on screen in a horror movie at all was Species, not Species. The big cockroach one.
Not Relic.
No, it's there where they when the little
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
God dang, I forgot now. I fail. Huh?
Who's in that?
I forgot, but that was the first time I saw kids actually get killed.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can see the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the they work in a museum. She works in a museum or something. And they're in the subways.
Yeah, the giant bug monsters are in the subway, but that's when I first saw kids. So yeah, I was glad that he didn't have the kids, in peril on screen on this. That helped quite a bit. But You could tell he was a fan of horror films. I mean, if you didn't pick up on that on Dawn of the Dead, it definitely comes through here with Slither.
Yeah.
And again, this is not a remake. Okay. Yes, there are a lot of similarities to Slugs, to the you know, Tom Atkins, I think that was that was Tom Atkins, not Tom Atkins, was it? In the Space Slug movie that was from the early 80s.
Yeah, that was. Oh man, was
Those
that
Slugs, wasn't
Night of
it?
the Creeps?
Night of the Creeps. Thank you. God, fuck.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it is similar to Night of the Creeps. That's where you could tell it gets a lot of its influence from, but it definitely has its own identity. And now that we know James Gunn, which is funny because I was looking at his filmography and he hasn't directed as many films as you might think he has directed, but he's directed good stuff. Um, he's one of those directors
Mimic.
where hmm?
Mimic.
Mimic, thank you.
That's the way it was going to bug me, and I'm just like thinking, I'm like, it's
It
like
was I knew it was a
chameleon
one
or
word.
something.
I knew it was a one word title too. Mimic, thank you.
Yep.
That was where I first saw kids get killed. But there's a lot of great choices in here, and I just it's so much fun. And what's funny is if you look at Slither, the cover of that, you're like, okay, this is kind of going to be your standard, kind of horror type schlock, but it's not. There's a lot of entertaining characters in here. I mean, you look at this though, and now that we know him with Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, now he's
Yeah.
going to be doing Suicide Squad. That style. Looking back at this, you could see all those James Gunnisms in this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
With the budget he's given. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like the little cameo by Lloyd Kaufman.
Yes. There's a wonderful subtle cameo by Lloyd Kaufman
Yeah.
in this, which I caught and love.
I mean, and for those who don't know, because that's where Gunn got his start pretty much, was with Troma.
Romeo and Juliet was his first film he directed, which is actually considered one of the better Troma films, actually. And that was the first time I ever saw the car crash footage that Lloyd uses in nearly every film known to man.
Yep.
That's the first time I saw that car crash in that film. But yeah, he got his roots in Troma, and now he's directing freaking $100 million multi-$100 million movies with huge stars. And if you look at Slither, you can see why. I mean, you've got the quips in here. You've got that wonderful balance of, like you said, he put it perfectly. It's a funny movie, but it's not a comedy. There's humorous moments in here, but there's some pretty brutal moments in here, and the practical effects in this are beautifully grotesque.
Although Gunn doesn't like a lot of them.
I think it's a lot of the CG stuff. It sounded like or scenes where they used some CG because.
Well, it's from what I understand, a lot of the effects it's a combination of the two.
Right.
Because there's like one scene. I'm not going to spoil the scene, but there's one scene where I know they had like multiple puppeteers, and they kind of had to digitally erase all of them. They're like, there's no way we can do this shot with the puppeteers and not make it look like there's puppeteers moving this thing.
And actually, I think there is one shot in the film near the climax of this movie where I saw it. There was a clip where I saw it. It's Michael Rooker, if you guys probably by now know, is a friend of James Gunn. They're very close, and he's, he ends up being the main baddie in this film. And there's one scene where he's confronting his wife. And yeah, I swear I saw somebody behind kind of lifting and I'm like, oh yeah, did I just see that? And then you cut to the next scene and cut back, and they're like, there's nothing there. You're like, but yeah, I mean, it's got comedy, it's got great performances. You can see Nathan Fillion, I mean, being Nathan, but I love his style. It's not nearly as he's not nearly as Mal as you might expect, but it's still kind of there with his delivery. of some
Yeah,
of his stuff. But and the script too. What'd you think of the
have
dialogue in
that.
that?
He has that kind of confident confusion.
Yeah, yeah, that he that to where he could probably be a really cool serious guy, but he doesn't want to be. So he kind of just gets to that edge, and I always love that style with Nathan and Rooker are great. Elizabeth Banks they got in here. I mean the cast that they have in here is a lot of fun. The dialogue, but what'd you think of where I was going with that before is I liked the dialogue in here as well. It's more of that James Gunn style that we now are familiar with, but
Yep.
to where he can work in. And it's funny because he sets it in a small town, and it was fitting because there are a few goofy things that end up coming up along the way with small town tropes. But by doing that, I think he could get away with some of the sillier stuff that happens in here too, though, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That you buy into it, whereas normally you go, well, that'd be just ridiculous. But here, okay, that kind of makes sense with the group of individuals you've just presented with us
Yeah.
to us. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a solid, entertaining movie. It's fun to pick out. You got this definitely would be, wouldn't you say this is a good group film to watch with a
Oh
group of
yeah,
people.
absolutely.
Um,
It's this is. I mean, the first time I watched it with my friend, there were six of us, I think, who
mhm.
watched it all together. So one person who could not handle it.
Was it the gore?
Yeah, the gore and some other stuff. So
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, there's a horrifically fun scene done as you get near the third act, folks, where they find a missing person in a barn, but they've been changed. And man, that scene is like, wow. Um, it don't go into it thinking Guardians of the Galaxy, folks. For those of you who may have been introduced to James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy, he has horror roots, okay? He has trauma roots, and that shows in Slither quite a bit. But I would say I would recommend if you liked his Dawn of the Dead remake, you definitely have to watch this if you haven't already. I recommend it. It's another five stubber for me because this just it hits all the beats you want from a film like this. It never goes too serious, but there's just enough in there to make it not completely ridiculous. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it is. It's that style of his that now we know. Even the music, he picks music in here that's appropriate, just like with he did the Guardians of the Galaxy. The music he picks in here is great. Especially the end song.
five
Uh,
stubber.
huh?
I said a five stubber. All right.
A five stubber, yes, five stubs for me on this. It really just was everything that I would want from a movie like this. What about you, Glenn? Would you recommend it?
Oh, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah. What's your scale of 1 to 10? We haven't got one of those in a while.
on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a. I like the movie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that there's some issues I have with it in some areas. I'm not going to spoil things, but a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a pot enema. So I know someone's blowing smoke up my ass, but I'm feeling really good about it. So
Pot enema. Beautiful. God, I love your scale of 1 to 10. A pot enema. There you go, folks. That should be on the Slither cover. Slither cover. It's like a pot enema. That's what they should put on there. So well, thank you very much, Glenn, for being part of this 15th anniversary edition of the Final Cut. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate, of course, all our viewers and such out there. 15 years on here, couldn't do it without their support and yours, of course, sir. And you got a little something. What?
wait, people are going to see this?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
didn't I tell you that people were going to see that?
put
Sorry.
on your shirt and fix my hair.
No, you look fine. You look fine. You look good, man. No, you look good.
Okay.
You look good. The hair, I mean, I can't pull off hair like that. So yeah,
I just need the fan so I can do the
there you
Nick.
go. That'll work. You got anything you want to plug, sir?
Uh, you can find me on the social medias, Games in a Bunker, all one word. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that type of stuff. I talk about nerdy crap.
Excellent nerdy crap. And yeah, so check his stuff out, folks. Check out Slither if you haven't already. It's a film that's really grown on me over the years, even more so now. And I really enjoy it. I have so much fun with this movie. So yeah. And we will. He's got smoke now. It's not going up his butt. We can't show that because YouTube has restrictions. So, we should just say, everyone, take care, stay safe, and as always, keep your ticket stub.